Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening now because it's 5:30 already. So can I have the next slide please, so that we jump into the subject first. So I'm sure everybody has heard a lot since morning about what air pollution is, what the government is doing, what the other countries are doing. But I think it was very important to, I was discussing with my colleague that do I have to build a context? Yes, we do. We always have to have a foundation, although my colleagues who have spoken before me since morning, they have tried their best to sort of cover the major issues, but I still felt, there are certain stats which were very close to me, and I felt that they were important to let them be on the presentation. So the first figure that I want you to sort of look at is about 8.5 million deaths annually. And this is a report by World Bank, and this is a staggering figure. And it is human lives that we're talking about. Indeed, it is a health emergency. And then when we talk about air pollution and talk about health, it is about children, it is about adults, it's about the elderly. Right now, we are entering into the smog season, which is also known as the 5th season in Lahore specifically, and which is as deadly as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes each day. One breath that we take here right now. The AQI levels last year, I was just looking at the different cities and the stats yesterday night, and I came across Multan. The AQI levels went higher than 800, which is huge. And imagine that once you enter the city of Multan, there's a cloud which you can see, which is just dust and yellow. I also happened to be in Bangladesh, Dhaka. And when I was going through the, the trans-boundary and was exploring the regional issues and the challenges that we countries in the South Asia are facing in terms of air pollution, I actually was like, Bangladesh, the Dhaka city, Karachi, Delhi, and Lahore aren't any different. We're all facing the same challenges, extreme weather conditions, a lot of climate impacts, and unfortunately, Pakistan is in the top 5 most vulnerable countries. So is India, so is Bangladesh. Didn't you see the floods, right? They just passed by, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to overcome the impacts of the floods. We couldn't even build back better after the 2022 devastation caused by the floods. So, as I stand here, we talk about population growth, and as the population is growing, we are going to need more energy, which is again dependency on fossil fuels. And can you imagine what are the damages that fossil fuels are going to cause and contribute to the air emissions? They are huge. And as you can see on the screen, there are about $2.9 trillion that we will be, suffering globally. Next, please. Yeah, so I think we all know that we're sitting in a geographic zone which is very, very risky in terms of development, in terms of economic growth, in terms of climatic impacts. So having said that, we unfortunately, 50% of our air pollution comes from transboundary. That's what we want to envision, mostly. But yes, later down the presentation, I will take you to the drivers, which actually are the key variables in driving this transboundary air pollution. Because that is also, we can't really blame everybody else. Right now, I don't want to sort of sound pessimistic. I want to be more optimistic. Highlighted the problem enough. But I think the death toll is important. It actually is an alarm for all the regions, not only, the South Asian belt, but also the Southeast Asian belt, because that is also a booming industrial zone. And it's not only Pakistan, we are, contributing to less than 1% to the global greenhouse gas emissions. But at the same time, we have to suffer the most. And I'm not talking only on the behalf of Pakistan, I'm talking on the behalf of the South Asian countries. Next, please. So here, this chart was really exciting and disturbing, because it states that, for people who can't turn around, because of course I have a neck ache now looking at the back, so I will read it to you guys. So India lost about 2.1 million people in 2021. Bangladesh, Pakistan, 200 plus thousand people lost their lives. And the people who were suffering from different respiratory diseases, eye infections. I was just telling my colleague that, I've started having eye irritation lately. Why? Why am I having that? I'm sure a lot of people out of the crowd that is sitting ahead, in front of me, they might be suffering with the morning allergy that we call. It's all because of the dust. And unfortunately, we are living in one of the most polluted city at the moment, where the life expectancy has been reduced by 7 years. That is not a small number. I mean, we are at the brink of, all the negativity in terms, negative health impacts that we can face. Next, please. Okay, so these are just the drivers. We all know that there are plenty of sources and causes of air pollution. But these are not only for Pakistan and from Pakistan. I would like to sort of, stress upon the same fact that, when we talk about vehicular emission, when we talk about, the fuel usage, unfortunately in South Asian countries, the fuel quality is pathetic. That means that the emissions that we are throwing out by burning those fuels, majority of which is coal, heavy furnace oil, and then natural gas. Although that, we are also a big advocate of just energy transition, moving on to renewable energies, and we are, moving towards electrification. We have an EV policy in Pakistan, which we have devised, and fortunately, we've got a lot of public transport that has entered into the market. But at the same time, I think one of the colleagues in the morning said that, EVs are quite expensive. They need to be, affordable price ranges for cars and public transport. This is not, we're living in a country which is not completely developed. When we talk about Pakistan and their issues, we need to look at, when we're talking about transboundary air pollution control, we need to look at the economic situation in these countries. We also need to look at the population trends, the land use trends, unfortunately, because there is poor land use planning, which has led to the consequences which have brought us today to talk about air pollution. Because of poor land use planning, we have sort of cut down our forest cover. About 11,000 hectares of trees are cut down every year in Pakistan. That's an estimated number, and I'm sure it's more. So these are going to definitely exacerbate the emissions, because we are actually minimizing, reducing, and cutting our carbon sinks. We're already a water-stressed country. We don't even have clean air at the moment. We have cities which are heaps of dumps. We just have garbage all around. You get out of this expo center and you take a left turn, and there'll be like little communities where the scavengers are collecting waste. They're actually burning that kind of plastic as well. Nobody is going there and checking if, they give the relevant awareness to those scavenger communities and make them understand that, oh, these are dioxins, these are cancer-causing gases, and those are also going in the air, by the way. Not only at the cost of our health, but also, you're polluting the surrounding areas. And this is not the situation only in India, it's in Bangladesh, it's in Pakistan. So these are some factors which are always ignored. We can't really say that, okay, vehicular emission is the most critical one, fuel is the most critical one. Yes, they are. They're one of the biggest, contributors to particulate matter. But at the same time, are we not using the land and the natural resources which are given to us in the very, because we live on this earth for a specific time, and when we plan, and a lot of colleagues have talked about action plans, roadmaps, So roadmaps and action plans are made for future generations, looking at the given resources that we have. We don't have, tangible outcome based planning in terms of air pollution specifically. When we talk about industries, I have, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So industries, of course, are dependent on energy, and most of their energy production is through coal, of course. Unfortunately, we lie in an in an economic zone where, you know, we don't have the access to clean and green energy or the low emission energy forms. So I would still again take it again to the transboundary, the Indo-Gangetic plain, because we share a common airshed. You know, there are about 5-7 countries which are lying in this zone, and we are always suffering not only one kind of pollution, but plenty. So as an environmentalist, when I look at the, you know, transboundary climate issues, there are plenty. Next, please. I think this was very important and interesting because, as I said, that the population is growing. So is the energy demand going to grow. In the last 2 decades, about 50% increase has been seen in the energy demand. And unfortunately, most of it, about 60% or more, is dependent on coal. Of course, then you're talking about higher emissions of nitrogen, carbon, and sulfur oxides. Then, unfortunately, there is lack of political will. In the judicial session, I was actually excited and I was very happy, and I would like to second Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, because I think there is poor governance, there's lack of infrastructure in order to curb air pollution. Just putting few sprinklers who are going around the city, are these just optics, or are we doing something on ground? Just putting few air quality monitors is not going to do the trick, unfortunately, and that too in Lahore and Multan, or maybe at some priority spots where we can have the, you know, photography. So that is not what we are asking for. We are asking for a plan that the government should step forward, build their own capacity first, because people who are actually working on ground, if you go and talk to those people who are actually, driving those sprinklers around, they don't have any clue as to why they're doing that. Oh, we're trying to make sure that there's no dust. That's it. They have no idea that, you know, you are also a victim of air pollution. You know, go and check your, the lung function test actually tells you what is the capability of your breathing and your lung function. How well are you? So how many people and how many outdoor, we've got a lot of people who are working at 1122 and they're always on the roads. So, and unfortunately they're not in those filtered rooms, the perfectly designed rooms which are there, in the hospitals mostly, but not anywhere else, unfortunately. Not even the government offices have air that is clean. We have a stall outside by Royal Fans, and it has air purifiers. I think that is also one of the key elements. Why do we have to opt for air purifiers? I mean, 10 years back, we were not using any air purifiers. We had a lot of plantation. Now we're just, there's a lot of horizontal development of land. Next, please. Here, I would just like to highlight, because you can see that there are plenty of wonderful policies that exist in Pakistan. There are plenty of global policies, Paris Agreement, Gothenburg, treaties, and ASEAN agreements. But the best one that I like personally, and I think that kind of a legally binding treaty needs to be put forward. We've got some colleagues from the UN. So, I would urge that probably in the next COP, COP30, probably we should take this further, because this region demands serious attention, and I think we need to also set targets of controlling and reducing the air emissions. Next. Okay, so these are some of the platforms that are already available to the South Asian countries, and I think it's important that we utilize them. I think they're underutilized, and due to various challenges, because one of the challenges is the geopolitical challenge, because of our political tension, mistrust, investments into and the attention onto the military side between our neighbors is always existing, which is not and should be not the priority for these countries. I think climate change, there's no bigger emergency than climate emergency. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. So this would be my last slide, and I think this is the most important slide, because I think here I would like to give some key concrete suggestions from WWF. We need to facilitate regional cooperation. The policies specifically for air pollution need to be made together for collective outcomes. We also need to ensure that there are regional dashboards for real-time data reporting on different kinds of emissions which pertain to air pollution. Sector-specific mitigation should also be taken into account, and that too at a regional level. It is not only Pakistan's or India's job. You know, the other partner countries need to take place as well, because all the countries that lie in the South Asian belt, they need to come forward and take action. And also, I think, as we said, the civil society also need to step up. There needs to be word of mouth, there needs to be awareness. ESG plays a very critical role. When we talk about private sector, I think it's important that we take industries into mainstream. We have to have blended finance, although that, you know, developing countries like ours, they heavily rely on grants. But I think blended finance mechanism for scalable projects should be identified and piloted in regions, but in a more holistic way where we can capture the major causes of air pollution. Another thing is cleaner fuels. I think we're still relying on Euro 2 and Euro 4. Somewhere in the world is at Euro 6. So we need to create that enabling environment to support the action plans that can actually address air pollution. Right now we're in the 5th season, smog. So there needs to be some sort of an agreement or a treaty which should address the smog issue particularly, for like a temporary, solution. But on a longer term, I think it's important that we need to have a legally binding treaty where all the parties in the South Asian countries region can come together and take collective action and put it in their decision making in terms of finance, in terms of technical inputs, and also, plugging in technology. We're talking about monitoring of, air pollution. Why are we only monitoring it? Why are we not utilizing satellite-based data, GIS and remote sensing, an AI-based tool to actually, just like as China pointed out, why are we not utilizing it to address the issue, to resolve the issue, and to put an end to it? Because it's only going to be possible together. And on that note, I will end. Thank you so much.